Hi there, Saturn class. Today we're going to carry on our writing again with Mr. Penguin. I'm going to show you how to set up your book. We're using a double page spread. Again, we've got a task to do and some questions to answer. So I need you to set up the top section with a section for your missing words, numbers 1 to 7, and questions, numbers 1 to 7. And then we're going to start our thinking side halfway down our page. So we've got a thinking side, and we're going to be this morning, we're going to be writing a little piece of a museum information page, and we'll come on to that later on. So pause the video and set up your book. Okay, so hopefully you've got your book all set up and ready to go. What I'd like you to do is listen very carefully to this first section of a museum guide. Now, when we have a museum, when we visit a museum, quite often you can buy or you're given a special guide book, a little booklet or leaflet that will show you all about the artifacts and the exhibits in the museum. I'm sure you've all been to a museum and seen something similar. Similarly, you might have been online and you would have seen captions and labels for pictures and artifacts. So if we remember that this museum in Mr. Penguin is the Museum of Extraordinary Objects by Sir Randolph Bones. So Sir Randolph Bones was the original founder of the museum, and he is Boudicca Bones' great-great-great-grandpapa. And he would have lived at the museum at that time, and he would have collected all of the artifacts, all of the exhibits, the unusual coffee pots, the unreliable trapdoors, and the smells, the lost property collection. All of those rooms would have been set up by himself and the people that he knew at the time. For example, Baroness von Klonker and her wigs. So he would have a guide to his museum. And here is the first chunk of that guide. It's a paragraph to explain a little bit more about the museum. But as you can see, there are missing words, and underneath your missing words section, in the top left section that you've put in your book, you are going to write in your missing words. Okay? Sorry, the pen got a little bit carried away. So you're going to write in the missing words. So follow along and we will see what those missing words are. They've got to make sense in the sentence. So, welcome to my museum and blank. The blank that await you are all wonderfully extraordinary in their own way, whether because of the blank they were part of, the manner in which I blank them, or the rumours that surround them. They all have a blank story to tell. This guide will reveal all. So do please explore blank and exhale your delight at my treasures. Oh, and don't try the blank. So what I'd like you to do is pause, have another think about what words they could be. As long as they make sense, we will look at some possible answers in a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just scooch this up now. Just make that a little smaller. So I've got the original paragraph here. Here we go. And I'm going to underline the words that are suggested here. You may have different ones. They may work. They may be different. It doesn't matter as long as they make sense. So here we go. Welcome to my museum and home. The objects that await you are all wonderfully extraordinary in their own way. Objects was missing. Whether because of the history they were part of, or the manner in which I acquired them, or the rumours that surround them. So if we go back up, we can have a look to see which ones we're missing. Because of the history and acquired. So whether because of the history they were part of, or the manner in which I acquired them. If you acquire something, you gain it. You've been given it, you gain it. or the rumours that surround them. They all have a thrilling story to tell. This guide will reveal all. So do please explore, examine, and exhale your delight at my treasures. And don't try the trapdoors. Trapdoors was one of them. You might have had something different that may have made sense. Examine. Interestingly, we've got an X words. We've got a little bit of alliteration going on there for effect. Were there any others? They all have a thrilling story to tell. You may have had an exciting story, a fascinating story. Fascinating would have worked well. An unusual story to tell. Unusual would have worked well in there. If you think about the collection of objects that Mr. Penguin has in his museum. So well done for having a go at that. If you had different words, don't worry. There's no real right or wrong answers as long as they made sense in the paragraph. So as you can probably see from the bottom of my screen, which I'm going to ping up now, we are going to look at one particular part of the museum. We're going to look at one of the rooms. If we can remember some of those rooms, we had unreliable trapdoors. We had ancient masks that may or may not be haunted. Lots of different types of rooms there in the museum. This particular set of paragraphs is the museum guide for the ancient masks which may or may not be haunted. So I'm just going to pause mine so that I can get that onto the screen so you can read it with me. Okay, so let's bring that back so we can see that and read it together. Now, it's 2 paragraphs and there is a third paragraph. It's not finished. And so, as I said to you earlier on, we're going to look at our museum guide and how we can finish our museum guide with our own imaginations and our own ideas for a mask which may or may not be haunted. So I'm going to read along and we're going to look at this. I'm going to ask you some questions as well. So you're going to need to listen to those questions and answer them in your top section of your book. So let's listen to start with. Ancient masks which may or may not be haunted. This marvellous collection began with the unique elephant raccoon mask gifted to me in 1907 by a travelling circus. The circus, Kerr and Plunk's incredible travelling show, had been using the mask as part of a costume until staff linked the object with a series of strange mishaps. On 3 consecutive nights during their London tour, members of the show were involved in the most strange mishaps. Burnt by an unexplained fire, knocked unconscious by a misfiring cannon, and attacked by a snake. On the 4th night, the lead dancer forgot to wear the mask and the show was flawless, receiving its biggest ever standing ovation. I received the mask the following morning. Aside from our vast selection of morphed animal masks, you will find over 100 examples of masks made from primitive used toilet rolls. These were kindly donated to my collection by Colonel Latrine. A decorated war hero, Colonel Latrine returned home from the jungles of Rwanda, having found them abandoned in a flooding cave. He reported hearing strange watery sounds coming from the study where he housed them and noticed new damp patches on the carpet each morning. He was therefore very pleased to gift them to the museum. However, our most popular exhibit in this collection is by far the... And then we don't know the rest at this point. So, as I said, I was going to ask you some questions. So you should have a section at the top right-hand side of your thinking side to answer these questions. You need to listen to them, pause the video and answer them. Question 1. What was gifted to Randolph Bones in 1907? If you wrote down or said the elephant raccoon mask. Well done. Number 2. What happened on the second night at the circus? What happened on the second night at the circus? If you said knocked unconscious by a misfiring cannon, or knocked unconscious, well done. Question 3. Which word means perfect in the first paragraph? Which word means perfect in the first paragraph? If you said the word flawless, well done. Flawless is a great word for something being perfect. Question 5. How does Randolph Bones describe the selection of animal masks? How does Randolph Bones describe the selection of animal masks? I'll give you a clue. It's in the second paragraph. If you said they are morphed animal masks, you are correct. Morphed animals means, if we go back to the original one, elephant and raccoon, morphed is joined together, changed into. We've got elephant, raccoon. We could have duck, fish mask. We could have squirrel, fox mask. Morphed means two or more types of something sort of mingled together. Mingled would work well as well. Okay, question 6. Which word shows that Colonel Latrine had won lots of medals? Which word shows that Colonel Latrine had won lots of medals? If you said decorated, you are correct. Decorated war hero. Decorated is the medals on his uniform. Decorated war hero. Number 7. Where was the jungle that Colonel Latrine discovered the masks in? Where was the jungle that Colonel Latrine discovered the masks in? If you said Rwanda, or you wrote down Rwanda, well done. It's a country in Africa. And that would make sense, an elephant, raccoon. Although down here, primitive used toilet rolls. That's what the masks were made of. That made me giggle. And question 7, which word in the last sentence of the paragraph is usually a noun but is behaving like a verb? I'll say that again. Which word in the last sentence of the paragraph, so here's the last sentence of the paragraph, which word is usually a noun, but behaves as a verb? Let's read it. He was therefore very pleased to gift them to the museum. Which word do you think is a verb but usually a noun? Okay, so the word is gift. And we looked at that word a little bit yesterday, where we said that the items are gifted to the museum. So here it's a verb, but actually you can have a gift, like a birthday gift or a Christmas gift. Okay, so well done for answering the questions. I'm sure you did very, very well with that. Okay then, Satin class, we're going to move on now with our writing part of our lesson, and we're going to look at collecting some information because we're going to complete the last paragraph. And if you remember, the last paragraph starts off with, however, our most popular exhibit in this collection is by far the ... We're not really sure, so we're going to use our imaginations. And I've got some pictures here, but you might think of your own mask. But what I'm going to do is have a little play with some of these images to see if I can work out a good mask name here. So I have got 4 masks. I'm just going to bring them in a bit more. There we go. I've got 4 masks here, and I've got a mechanical clockwork mask. Mechanical clockwork mask. This one is an interesting one. It is lots of plastic. Maybe things that have been forgotten or discarded, abandoned. I'm going to go with, you could say that it might be forgotten forks or discarded, looks like board game pieces. Like, you remember the game Mousetrap? That game looks a little bit like those sort of pieces, discarded plastic, or maybe discarded connects. I'm going to go with discarded board game pieces, or the mask made from. So I'm just going to put made from. The mask made from discarded board game pieces. This one here, I've got some leaves. Could be the leaves from an enchanted forest. I'm going to go enchanted. Now, remember, we also love the word mystical in our class, so we could have the mystical, a mystical mask, magical, mystical, a mask of enchanted greenery. You have got much better ideas than me with this, so I think you'll probably come up with something even more wonderful for that one. This one I like. It's a mask of bread, so it could be a loaf, a mask. No, I can't think of that one. The bread mask. Stale bread. Interesting. Even more unusual. Stale bread. Stale sliced bread. Stale sliced bread. Mask made from. So just make sure that it's a mask made from. Okay, Saturn class, what I've done is I've snipped out what I made notes on, the masks that I've made notes of. I've just snipped that out and put it next to the next part of our work. The bottom section of your book, on your thinking side, you've got 2 columns, 2 boxes where you've got space now to collect some information about your mask. So what I'd like you to do is choose one of these masks, or maybe you have your own ideas on how on what mask you might choose. I've just thought of another word for my mask for the board game pieces. If your mask is fairly basic and it's been put together maybe quickly, it's quite basic, it's like in the style of like Early Man, where there's not many resources to use, we can use the word primitive. Now, interestingly, that word was in our original model, the primitive used toilet rolls. Basic is a good word to describe that. I thought I quite liked that word, so actually I've plopped it in there. So if you would like to use your own ideas for a mask, you can, or you can use one of these ideas. Now, the way you're going to have to do this is, first of all, think about how it became part of the collection. So we're looking for ways to start our sentence when we come to do our sentence writing. So we're going to look at how phrases. So we know we can have gifted or donated. Those 2 words work really well in this sense. It's believed to be, it's considered to be, or it's thought to be. We can also have those. So we can have considered, thought, or believed to be. So how did your mask that you've got in your mind, or one of these pictures, how did it become part of the collection? So for me, it was donated by, I need to think of a name of somebody who may have donated the mask that I choose. The one I'm going to choose is this one here. Okay, so I'm going with my Mechanical Clockwork mask. And actually I've had a few ideas. I can see cogs. So I might need to, once I've got my mask that I want to use, I'm going to need to think of a few other words just to go with it, so that I've got lots of information. Cogs, it's clockwork. There's probably going to be some ticking going on with that mask. Time, probably going to need some sort of words relating to time, hour, minute, and all of that. So I now know how I now know it was gifted or donated. I'm going to think about who will have done this. So at any point you can pause the video and add the bits that you need. You can go away and think of your own mask and come back to this. You might like to use this one. Primitive plastic board game pieces. A mask made entirely from primitive board game pieces. A mask made entirely from enchanted greenery. A mask made from sliced stale bread. So once you've done that, once you've decided on your mask, you're going to come back and remember how it became part of the collection. So mine was donated, I'm going to go donated, or considered to be donated by, we don't know, could be somebody else. I'm going to go for a pun. Now a pun is a play on words. We've not done these before, but there are a few of you in this class that love names that are puns. And I love them too. So we're going to go for a play on words for a name. Now, because mine is made from clocks and cogs and ticking and time and hours, I'm going to go with a person called Chester Minute. I've changed the way minute is spelt though, so that it's a little bit less obvious. I don't want him to be just a name. I want him to be quite important. So he's going to be Professor Chester Minute. Professor Chester Minute. So, for example, another one could be this particular one, because it's greenery and it's leaves and it may have come from a woodland. You could have Teresa Green. I'll note that down. Teresa Green. This one here, it's made from bread, so it could have been donated by Bread Pitt. I'm having a good old chuckle as I do this. Or maybe Lord Peterbread. Peterbread. So, as I said, I've chosen to go with Professor. I could have Lord or Lady. I could have Sir, Baroness, Marquis, Lord, all of that. So I want you to try and think carefully around a sort of a pun name that you could have. As I say, mine's the clock. He's called Chester Minute. Or it doesn't have to be related to the mask. It could be Major Joe King. So have a little think about that and see if you can come up with a name and how your mask has been donated to the museum. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is, let's just scooch that up a bit. We're going to look at in what way could the mask appear haunted. So because this is a masks that may or may not be haunted, we need to give them some sort of fun story. It's still got to be quite formal when we write our sentences, but the story behind it needs to be quite fun. So I'm going to share with you my ideas for my Mechanical Clockwork mask that was donated by Professor Chester Minute. And I've got here that this mask has intricate details. The intricate metalwork details, and they may appear to whiz, tick, tock, whiz, whir, all by themselves. I can already imagine the ideas that you're coming up with. So that's one way they could be haunted. Maybe other clocks. I'm just going to put a little slash there because I'm going to add another one. All the other clocks may stop or stopped. May stop. That's another way they could be haunted. So there's two choices there for how my mask could be haunted. I'm going to need to think about what my mask, I may need to describe my mask a bit. So here's my little noticing. I'm going to put, I've already got an idea that I'm going to use the word intricate. Golden, ornate, so have a think about the language that you can use for the mask that you choose. You may have decided on one of your own. I've got a couple of words there for mine, and in a minute I'm going to go through the model of my mask to finish this paragraph of the museum guide. Okay, so I'm going to start writing my model now. I've tucked my vocabulary away for now because I needed a little bit more space. So remember that you do have your left-hand side to go and look for your vocabulary and your ideas. Remember to make sure your sentences make sense. Say them first before you write them. Now, the way we're going to do this is following on from the end paragraph where we had the ... Because we're completing a sentence, we won't start with a full stop. But what I'd like you to do is make sure that you copy, however, our most popular exhibit in this collection, by far, is the. And I'm going to start my model now. Oh, make sure I spell it correctly. And I've put my pun in there. I'm going to end it there. I think that's long enough. I've got a which word in there, which is going to give the more information. It's going to make my sentence a multi-clause sentence. So here we go. However, our most popular exhibit in this collection by far is the extremely intricate cogs and clockwork mask, which was gifted to the museum by Professor Chester Minute. If you need to pause the video and add your sentence in, please do. And then you can see the next sentence as I write it. So the next sentence explains a bit more about Professor Chester Minute, a keen inventor. He reported hearing the loud ticking and whirring of a clock late into the night. I got this idea here from where we had our original model when it decides that it wants to go down a bit. So I got this bit here from, sorry everybody, where it says here, a decorated war hero. So that's a good way of starting a sentence to explain a bit about Professor Chester Minute, which I didn't do in my original left-hand side. So you may need to go back and perhaps add a bit more to your left-hand side if you want to. A keen inventor, he reported hearing the loud ticking and whirring of a clock late into the night. I'm going to carry on a little bit more. I'm going to expand on that point. I'm going to look at when he looked into, so when Chester Minute has looked into this noise, that's when we're going to see how the clock and cogs and clockwork mask become part of the museum collection. So I'm going to start with a when. When he investigated, you may have when he looked into it further. When he investigated the sound. Now, because this is the start of a subordinating, this is a subordinating clause at the start of a sentence, it's an adverbial for when. So what we need to do is put it a comma because it becomes a fronted adverbial. So we've got when he investigated the sound, we need a comma. The ornate, that was one of my words, cog details, or design maybe, ornate cog details appeared to be the cog's turn. Twist and turn, I'm going to put turn. Appeared to be turning, in fact. Make sure it makes sense. Appeared to be turning all by themselves, maybe a little bit more formal language, because I know I had all by themselves up here. All by themselves. We know a good word for that, don't we? Appeared to be turning independently. Sometimes these words, they come as we write. So it's important to say what you're writing. Always talk the writing first. When he investigated the sound, the ornate cog details appeared to be turning independently. And all the other clocks had stopped. He was therefore, now interestingly, we didn't collect any of that language, so you can have that, that's fine. He was therefore, or you could have, he was consequently, he was therefore delighted. And again, we're going to come back now to the start of our paragraph when he gifted it to the museum. He was therefore delighted to, I've already used gifted it to the museum. I'm going to go donate. It to our collection. Oh. Okay. However, our most important... Oh, sorry. Start again, Mrs. Buck. However, our most popular exhibit in this collection, by far, is the extremely intricate cogs and clockwork mask, which was gifted to the museum by Professor Chester Minute. A keen inventor, he reported hearing the loud ticking and whirring of a clock late into the night. When he investigated the sound, the ornate cog details appeared to be turning independently, and all the other clocks had stopped. He was therefore delighted to donate it to our collection. It's got a mixture of different sentence types in there. I'd like you to have a go at creating your own paragraph for this museum guide, starting with, however, our most popular exhibit in this collection by far is the, and you're going to carry that on. I look forward to reading them.